Welcome to the On Series. We're coming to you from Newport Beach, California. We have a very special guest, Travis Smith, who is the president of DeviceAlliance, and he's also managing founder of Screwin Engineering. Travis, glad to have you here today. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, Ben.
So, you're the classic underachiever, right? You got these multiple roles, and what's interesting is you actually founded Screwin Engineering, and not with other people's money, but with your own money. So help us understand, before we get into that role, where did this all start for you? Did it start in college? Did it start before college? Your vision to come into this kind of career? Or how did you get this passion and develop the passion to found your own company?
Yeah, it actually comes from our family. We have some other people who are in the family that are entrepreneurs, have started their own businesses. And I always thought that was a really cool thing. I always looked at that as a kid, kind of like, God, I would love to do my own thing. Of course, not having to listen to anybody, that's always a fun thing to think about. But it really started in college because I entered into an entrepreneur academy through my school. So that was kind of where I got the first buzz of what that looked like.
Did the academy prepare you to what it looked like to become an entrepreneur? Did it give you the skill sets or just the vision of what it could be?
A lot of it was insight, was really kind of showing you, here's what an actual day-to-day looks like for an entrepreneur. Most people who haven't been through that, they just kind of think about the sexy, I'm my own boss. That's not a lot of what the day is. So that's what the academy focused on, was showing you what entrepreneurs are doing throughout their day, which was it was really insightful. So the bugs were planted within your family, and then when you went to college, this academy, it really sort of grew the fire, if you will. Yeah, absolutely.
In that vision. So when you started Screwin Engineering, what is it exactly they do or you do, and what services do you provide?
So Screwin's an engineering services company. Mm-hmm. So we work with medical device companies, startup all the way through to strategic. And what we're doing is we're helping with project support. So it could be outsourcing those projects, it could be onsourcing the projects, R&D, test quality, manufacturing. And what we're doing is we're basically supplying that organization with additional support to be able to get the project done, or maybe they don't have the support internally from a subject matter expert standpoint, so we come in and provide that guidance there.
Are you focused only in Orange County, or did you go beyond Orange County with the businesses you support?
Yeah, that's a nice thing of running your own business, is you can pick and choose where you want to work. Right. And I'm not a big fan of traveling for work, especially with two small kids at home. So for me, we really don't leave Orange County much unless a customer has another facility outside.
So if you were to take a barometer, a temperature of the ecosystem for medical device in Orange County, what grade would you give it on an A, B, C, D?
You're starting with the tough ones already. I'm biased in my perspective because my whole career has been here in Orange County within Device. So from what I read in the papers, it seems like Orange County has led a fair amount of our domestic device development. I think one of the things that we struggle with at times is the funding. Mm-hmm. As I'm sure you could probably talk about a little bit more eloquently than I could. But outside of Boston, San Diego, Minnesota, in Orange County, it's not going anywhere. It's only getting stronger.
So what percentage of your business in Screwin is made up of small companies, startups, versus more established companies versus strategics?
That's a great question. So at this point, we're probably 60%, 65% startup or small business. Small business being 100 employees and below.
Perfect. So now you're president of DeviceAlliance, and you started that role a few years ago. What got you to want to do that and get involved with DeviceAlliance?
It was more of here's the guy who's raising his hand, go for it. But DeviceAlliance, it's been around since '09. We're a smaller organization, and the group who had initially started it, just over time, it was just time for a new individual to come in, and the president prior, which is Kevin McNerney, he had asked me to come in and start leading the organization in 2016. So it was a really unique opportunity for me to get different exposure from a leadership perspective, especially because it's a nonprofit and everybody is a volunteer. Right. So try getting people to do things when they're not getting paid is a really interesting
it's the
area
ultimate
of
charity strike, right? Yeah. So when you think about taking on this role, what were some of the hurdles with DeviceAlliance when you took it over? Obviously you had great leadership prior to your tenure as president. But what were some specific hurdles that when you jumped into this role that you instantly encountered?
Probably the biggest one was how the organization was known within the local community. It had always been known as an executives group. And for that matter, kind of like Cheers. You know, if you remember that show,
Sure.
it's the place where everybody knows your name type thing. It's a smaller, more intimate group. And what we started learning was that the local ecosystem here, it really needed more than that. And by us not being able to provide a service and support to everybody that was not an executive was really a big missed opportunity.
Mm-hmm. So how does that differ, DeviceAlliance, from an Octane OC in terms of the mission?
Yeah. I can't speak to Octane's mission. It's a great organization. You know, they do a really good job of identifying emerging technology and matching that up with funds, which is certainly needed here in Orange County. DeviceAlliance, where we differ, we don't focus on the technology, we focus on the people.
Okay.
So that's our mission, is helping to educate and provide opportunity to the professionals here within the device
When you say
community.
opportunity for jobs or training, education, for connections and making key connections within companies, or is it sort of all the above?
All the above. So we have a professionals academy, and through that academy we facilitate lunch and learns, different training sessions. We of course have our speaker events, which are every other month. We also have a young professionals committee. Mm-hmm. So we coin young professionals as 29 and younger. So basically once you hit 30, it's like
you're over the hill.
Yeah, you're over the hill. It's like time to take your life serious at that point.
Right.
But through those different programs and engagements, that's how we're able to, again, on a little bit more of an intimate scale, provide a little bit more professional support that's
Right.
focused at the individual.
So when you go into running a nonprofit organization, what are some of the common myths or misconceptions about running a nonprofit versus running your own business?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is that nonprofits don't operate like a for-profit business. Mm-hmm. That's probably the biggest one that I've learned. So I've been at the helm now for about 3.5 years. We operate like a for-profit business. It's just the behind the organization in terms of where those funds go and how we utilize those funds to support other programs is obviously different than a nonprofit.
Sure.
Or excuse me, a for-profit.
Right.
Yep.
So when you think about DeviceAlliance, what are some of the key metrics you use to say we're successful or not? And you have initiatives you're tracking, you've got conferences coming up that you're going to hold. What are some of the metrics you use to say we're hitting our objectives, our goals, and our goals for the future?
We keep it pretty simple. It's all about the feedback that we're getting from the community and what they're telling us. So we do surveys pretty often. We have folks that are operating as a DeviceAlliance ambassador at each of the events to collect feedback as people are attending and or leaving. There's not much else you can do in terms of changing or improving an organization without that type of feedback. So that's our entire focus is, are we providing a service and support to our constituents and our members that they actually want and need?
What are some examples of the feedback you've gotten? Like, what do they want? What do they want DeviceAlliance to provide, or what are they looking for in such an organization?
I think the biggest piece of feedback is that we're an open group. You can come, you can meet with people. It's not stuffy. You don't feel like you can't go approach someone. Everybody really is there. I'll use the words of the founder of the organization, Kevin McNerney. He always likes to say blue ocean.
Right.
And I really believe that's what has allowed us to stay within the local community here for the last 10 years and continue to grow, is that we utilize the blue ocean mentality, which is we're really here to give back. And if we can help you out, then we're happy to do that.
It's fantastic. So go back to Square One Engineering. You mentioned that you kind of got the entrepreneurial bug, but still it's a big risk you took. I mean, you could stay within a corporate culture, a corporate culture environment with some predictability and certainty. But what ultimately compelled you to found Square One Engineering? What need did you see that was not being met that said, this is really important?
Yeah. It was two things. One was personal. And then the other one was professional, something I had identified in the market. So the personal piece was my wife and I were pregnant with our first child, which was scary at the time, but we were trying to figure out, like, how am I going to be involved in our child's lives if I'm working 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and even later? Something I'm sure you can appreciate given your background. So that was a big piece for us because we looked at it as, well, if we start a business now, we've got 6 months to figure it out before the kid comes. Right. So, there was a bit of timing there. That certainly helped us make that move. But really the big piece was that I had customers coming to me saying, why aren't you doing this on your own? We're working with you because we like working with you. It doesn't matter what, the tagline is behind you or what it says on your business card. So that mixed in with, I worked for a really big organization, about $6.5 billion, worked there for 10.5 years. That organization did a great job in terms of servicing large customers, but like a lot of other companies that are similar, the startups, the small and medium-sized companies, they just kind of didn't get attention. And if they did, a lot of times they couldn't afford it, so it didn't really matter. So it was really built around building a service that startups and smaller businesses could utilize and benefit from, and where the company was happy to service them.
Right. That makes sense. When we come back after this message from our sponsor, we'll ask sort of the obvious question: how did his experience with Square One Engineering really prepare him for taking on the role at DeviceAlliance?
Serenitex is focused on eliminating the biggest challenge to migraine management, namely the subjective diagnosis of migraines and standard migraine drug therapy that results in undesirable effects and unproven results. Healthcare and lost productivity costs from migraines is $78 billion a year, and employers lose 113 million lost workdays from migraines. But did you know that more than 95% of those with chronic migraines have never sought help, received a diagnosis, or been treated? Serenitex has discovered a patentable technology solution for the non-invasive detection and screening of migraines. We've tested our approach on actual migraine patients, and it works. To learn more, visit serenitex.com.
Welcome back. Being an entrepreneur is a leap of faith. It's like they say, to find the fruit, you got to go out on the limb.
Right.
And not everybody's always comfortable with that notion because there's a lot of risk with that. You mentioned a young family, you want to have that work-life balance. And you've obviously found it, and you founded your company, and that is, to some degree, the American dream. But as you think about your experience so far at Square One and what that's meant to your career development, how did that prepare you for your role at DeviceAlliance?
That's a great question, Ben. I think the biggest piece that it helped me understand is that I was capable. So a lot of it was just the confidence. I knew that I could lead people and that I could. I think the bigger part is serve. Is really coming in with a servant's mentality to make sure that I'm there to do the heavy lifting along with the folks that I'm asking them to support the organization or do things, whatever that may be. Right. That was probably one of the biggest pieces that came from owning my own business, was just that confidence knowing that I could do it, along with the right team. Because you don't have the right team in place, it's going to be an incredibly difficult uphill battle.
And at DeviceAlliance, did you add a few members of that team as you went in time to say, okay, these are some gaps we want to fill, so these are the people I know that could help manage that transition or fill that gap?
We have. So the team is about 9 folks right now. However, 4 of them, including myself, were senior folks within the organization prior. So we have a nice blend of, you've been there, done that before, kind of the old guard, right, which is great because that provides perspective. But then we have new folks that are coming in with new ideas. And I like to tease some of the older guys on the leadership team. It's like the new folks come in with the new relevant ideas and you tell us how we're going to screw it up.
Right. Isn't that true?
Yeah.
Isn't that true? So as you think about incredible career progression, who are those 1 or 2 people in your life that have had a profound influence on your personal development or your business development?
Yeah, that's one of the things I look back on my career where I've been incredibly lucky to have people, kind of within my my support system. My parents, probably the first people that, as I look back, were always encouraging me and kind of giving me direction. My father owns a business as well, so I was able to kind of watch him and see some of the things that he did. And there's no better way to learn than to watch your father go through that. So starting the business, though, that was all my wife. She worked a full-time job while she was pregnant, so we were relying on her income. So that type of support, quite frankly, I don't know how I would have started the business without that. So
That's huge.
I have a mentor now. That's a woman who's up in San Francisco in the Bay Area, and she has run a business and sold it for a ton of money. And so it's good perspective, So those three folks really have been pretty paramount in my career.
When you talk about a mentor, some of the most successful people I've listened to, read books on, or heard speaking live, and these are people that are multimillionaires, multi-billionaires, they will tell you that they too have a group of mentors. They too have people that they're held accountable to and by. And I found that interesting when you said, I have a mentor in the Bay Area. That really shows a lot of wisdom and judgment on your part to say, my ego's not so big and outstretched and oversized that I got this and I can figure it out on my own. And obviously as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of that going on. You have to apply yourself, you have to go on to Google, you have to figure things out. But the fact that you actively pursued a mentor, that's quality. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, actually, the company that I was with prior, and the boss that I had for many years, who's a great man, a guy by the name of Bo Pack, he really instilled in me the importance of having a mentor. And a lot of times the reason people don't have it is because they just don't go and ask. So the organization that I'm always more than happy to give them credit on, you can go online, it's an organization called micromentor.org. Mm-hmm. It's a nonprofit, but it works just like Facebook. You go on, you create a profile, it matches you up with a mentor that is directly in alignment with the things you're looking to learn or capabilities you're looking to develop. That's actually where I met this woman, Bonnie, up in the Bay Area. So
micromentor.com.
Micromentor.org.
Micromentor.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
Got it. Interesting.
It's free service, and a lot of people don't know about it, especially for an entrepreneur. It's like, I look back, it's like, I don't know how the hell I would have done it without her.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's good to know. So as you look back and you've had these mentors and, obviously in your personal life, what are one or two career recipes for success did you learn from your mentors along the way that really had a profound impact either on your personal or professional life?
Probably the biggest one is not to play it safe. At some point you have to take risks. Hopefully those risks are calculated, and they're in line with strategically what you're looking to achieve. But even starting the business was a huge risk for my wife and I, but it was an appropriate and a calculated risk. And that's one thing that I'm constantly challenging myself with is rather than being in the status quo or getting comfortable, it's like, what are we going to do different this year or this month to kind of mix things up? And that's also what's exciting about running a business and being an entrepreneur.
And was it school, was it mentors that gave you that perspective, or was it just sort of your ethos, who you are as a person, that sort of ties into your character and how you see life?
It's a mixture of both. It's my personality. I'm certainly an A-type, which I know kind of falls in line with a lot of entrepreneurs. But it also comes from the people that I've grown up with. My father's certainly the same way. He's definitely a risk taker. The people I've surrounded myself with, my group of friends. So that helps. It can't just be all on your own. It ultimately does have to do with the people and the organizations you surround yourself with. Certainly.
And from that, what are one or two recipes, or pearls of wisdom you would offer the audience that said, do these one or two things, you'd have a whole different outcome in what you're trying to do today?
Yeah. If you're looking to start a business in particular, the best advice I could give to someone is it's all about who you know. And that may fly in the face of conventional wisdom having to do with, if you work hard and, it'll eventually get there. But even with social media today, it's still all about who you know and those relationships that you've developed over time. And how do you lean on them at the right moments while also giving back, right? You can't just take. That's probably the best advice I was given and the advice that I'm always happy to share because that's what's really changed my career and gotten the company up and running.
So you said something interesting because everybody is really big into social media, Snapchat, LinkedIn, Instagram, you name it. And the unfortunate thing is it's a very impersonal form of communication, right? And it sounds like what you're saying is not only get connected to people, whether it be through social media, but go at it with a deeper relational perspective. So it's not just a transactional, it's not just surface, but really it sounds like what you're saying, not to put words in your mouth, you really sought out people and developed the relationship. So there's actual connection, communication, and obviously times you got together in that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if that's just because the way that I think is a little bit more old school, but you can go on LinkedIn and have 6,000 connections. It doesn't mean anything.
Right.
You have to be able to figure out a way how to turn those connections into a workable format through a relationship. Hopefully you're giving to them first and not always take. There's a great book that I stand behind 100%. It's called The Go-Giver. And The Go-Giver really talks about that mentality of seeking to help people first, and then eventually that will probably come back, but you're really doing that for the reason of helping that individual. That's how you create relationships.
Right. Servant-centered leadership, their needs first.
Absolutely.
Right. That's great advice. Tell me something that's true that nobody necessarily agrees with you on.
Wow.
Something that you know in your gut, like, I know this is truth, but people just can't see it. Maybe because they don't have the experience, they haven't had the same journey, but it guides you.
Yeah, one of the things that, Ben, that I struggle with, to be quite frank with you, is there's a big misconception with people who are employees on what it takes to start a business. So the truth there is, don't get into it if you're not willing to give it basically everything you've got. The first 2 years, as you certainly well know, you've started businesses, it's tough. So when I hear, you hear it in the news and the media and different articles, they talk about how employers shouldn't get paid this or they shouldn't have certain benefits and whatnot. I struggle with that because it's like, you just got to wonder, the people who are saying that, I'm making an assumption, but they probably have very little idea what it actually takes to start a business and the risk that owner takes by doing that.
Right. It's funny, we have the NBA playoffs going on right now, and you have these commentators talking about these high professional athletes that are playing at the highest levels on planet Earth, right? And yet they want to be critiquing and critical and talk about their effort or no effort or whatever's going on. And sometimes it gets personal when you hear some of these commentators, and they have no earthly idea of what it takes to become a professional athlete, nor do they have the skill set.
Right.
Yet they have the ability to have very impactful words. So I think what you say is very true, that unless you've taken that journey as an entrepreneur, put everything at risk, taken the massive uncertainty of what that journey looks like, even though there's a lot of planning, a lot of experience, it's very true what you say. And a lot of people will come into businesses after you raise 40 million in capital or 60 million and think, hey, I'm a big part, which you want them to be, but they have no idea behind it what it took to get there and the risk you took, which is okay.
Sure.
Because that's not their journey, but it's very true. And I always find whether it be social media, whether it be sports or whatever they're talking about, unless they've been on that journey, sometimes you got to pull back on the commentary and seek to understand before being understood. Because for me, it's less credible as I'm listening to the commentary.
Well, I got into a conversation the other week with an individual who was asking me, what's the difference between being an owner and an employee? And I asked him, I just decided, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to be transparent and get a little vulnerable with this person.
Right.
And I just said point blank, I was like, as an employee, have you ever put up a personal guarantee to be an employee? It's like, because that's what I had to do in order to get our first lease on an office. Well, that's scary.
Yeah.
Because if the company goes down, it doesn't matter. They're coming after you no matter what. So it's a different mindset. But like you said, seeking to understand before being understood, it's perspective. And that helps you at the end of the day, if anything. So.
Right. That's very true. Is there anything you want to tell the audience we haven't covered?
I'm certainly biased in saying this because of my background with DeviceAlliance, but I'm big on networking and getting out of the office. Get the hell out of your office, out of the cubicle, out of the chair, and go meet people in person. And you may find that by doing that, you will learn just as much by interacting with other professionals, getting different perspectives, as you would by sitting in the office. I don't want to say that we're already there yet, but I wonder if, as technology continues to advance, will we get to a point where it almost becomes a lost art of how to communicate with somebody in person?
Well, no, I think that we're seeing it right now with the millennials, and I don't know what the next generation is, X, Y, Z, whatever it is, but we're seeing it today where it's very impersonal, and we know that with more use of technology, people are more depressed, more disconnected. They're not relationally connected in a very authentic way. So it's a very real challenge, I think, moving forward, especially if you're an employer and you're looking for talent, and that's how they've sort of grown up. They don't want to be told necessarily what to do, and they want to interact through technology. But we know it's really with and through people on a real level, press the flesh, if you will, where you get a lot of transactions that are actually done. I mean, multi-billion transactions are not done through social media. It's done in person, right? That's why there's airlines and people are flying around all over the country to really connect with people. So I think that's sage advice and well said.
So you just mentioned a moment ago about what's one of the things that your piece of advice, or as a part of DeviceAlliance's Young Professional Committee, we're actually teaching people how to network. And I'll be open that I never in a million years would have thought that would have been a part of that program. But it's just something you don't learn in school. You don't learn how to look somebody in the face and have a good conversation, shake their hand and introduce yourself. So
it's true.
Things that you and I may take for granted now at this point is actually a really big need. So I'm happy that we're at the forefront of that and we're helping there, but it's really interesting to kind of see that
right.
in action.
That's great. That's great service. Travis, where can the audience learn more about you? Where could they go?
I think first and foremost, DeviceAlliance.org would be the way to go to check us out. We also have a new video for our 10-year anniversary coming up, which is exciting. Yeah. And then my organization, which is SquareOneEngineering.com, 1 being the number 1. And check us out and the services we provide.
Super. Travis, thanks for coming on today. Enjoyed the conversation. That's it from the Beyond Series Wardrobe today, provided by John Varvatos, South Coast Plaza. Check it out. Go to Siam. He hooked me up with today's wardrobe. Remember, you can find us on Beyond with Ben Bobo on the internet or YouTube, LinkedIn, Beyond with Ben Bobo. And again, until next time, becoming is better than being.
When we founded Stradling in 1975, we made a commitment to helping our clients to succeed and create opportunities for business growth throughout California and beyond. Our people share cutting-edge focus in guiding the critical transactions and disputes of our clients. And we've developed a deep bench of contacts and resources to get the job done. As trusted advisors to technology, life science, software, and medical device companies, we've invested in building our expertise, developing the best of legal talent, and the readiness to serve the business community. From our commitment to our clients to our deep involvement in the communities we serve, we understand our job is your success.